You're watching News Central now on News Central Television. I am Lekon Onobanjo. The top stories at this hour. NNPCL announces 125,000 barrels per day. Warri Refinery has commenced production. In Olamide Thomas case, delay as prosecuting counsel requests more time to prepare for arguments. Ethiopia's road accident death toll rises to 71, others injured. Details to come your way shortly. News Central now at this hour begins in the oil sector. The 125,000 barrels per day Warri Refinery and Petrochemicals Company in Warri, Delta State is now up and running. The Group Chief Executive Officer of the Nigerian National Petroleum Company Limited, Mele Kyari, disclosed this during a tour of the facility on Monday. Among the tour team was the Chief Executive Officer of the Nigerian Midstream and Downstream Petroleum Regulatory Authority, Farouk Ahmed. The petrochemical plant, which is located at the Ekpan, Uvie and Ubeji Warri State, was built to produce 1,300 million tons per annum of polypropylene and 18,000 MTA of carbon black, commissioned in 1978 and managed by the NNPCL. The WRPC was built to supply markets in the south and southwest regions of Nigeria. Away from that, Nigerian President Bola Tinubu has extended his condolences to the U.S. government and people on the passing of former President Jimmy Carter, who died at the age of 100. President Tinubu praised Carter's legacy, saying he showed how to remain relevant and impactful after leaving office. According to Tinubu, Carter was a beacon of service to humanity, dedicating his post-presidency to peace, democracy, and eradicating tropical diseases. President Tinubu fondly recalled Carter's contributions to Nigeria, particularly his efforts to eradicate guinea worm disease and river blindness. He also reflected on Carter's historic 1978 visit to Nigeria, which marked a pivotal moment in U.S.-Africa relations. Meanwhile, U.S. Presidents Joe Biden and Donald Trump are leading the American people to mourn the former U.S. President and Nobel Peace Prize winner Jimmy Carter. Carter, who lived longer than any president in history, died on Sunday afternoon at his home in Plains, Georgia. Biden described him as a man of principle, faith, and humility, while Trump said all Americans owe Carter a debt of gratitude. Biden praised Carter's simple decency and called him an exceptional leader.
This is a sad day, but it brings back an incredible amount of good memories. Today, America and the world, in my view, lost a remarkable leader. I think that what Jimmy Carter is an example of is just simple decency. Simple decency. And I think that's what the rest of the world looks to America for. The rest of the world looks to us. And he was worth looking to.
Earlier, Ejike Okpa, Global Affairs Analyst, spoke to us on this development.
Jimmy Carter has and was the kind of president that I always liked, because when he left office, he remained relevant. He didn't get so much into the politics like we have former presidents do now. And he traveled the world, and part of it was, to spread the value of democracy and commit to things like, you say, guinea worm and so many other things that former American president never did. And he was one person that in 1978, I think he visited Nigeria, and he kept coming back to Nigeria. I think even after the World Cup in 1994, there was something, he came in and he went to Abakaliki, and, part of a medical mission on this public health issue. And then in America, he was committed to building homes, habitat for Humanity was a program that it was strongly identified with him, and that was going into poor neighborhoods and participating and in actually building homes, because apart from being a farmer, he was also a carpenter. He made chairs. So, I've always liked him for that, and I was fortunate to meet him. But I will show you on the screen. I happen to be one person that has a paperweight that has a signature on it, and when I went to the center in Georgia. So I have that liking to him because he never played whether it was, of course he's a Democrat, but he saw things from the humanistic point of view, and he made himself available. So he died at the age of 100 plus, and no other American former president has ever made that mark, and that's remarkable. So he was very relevant up until a few years ago when, of course, the wife, got sick and passed, and himself, when he reached that age of 90-something, most people are not able.
Away from that, the case between Olamide Thomas and the Inspector General of Police has hit a speed bump as the counsel representing the IGP requested 24 hours to prepare for arguments on the defendant's bail application. Olamide Thomas, whose video went viral for allegedly cursing Tinubu, son of Nigeria's President Bola Tinubu, and the Inspector General of Police, Kayode Egbetokun, during the 4th anniversary of the NSAS movement against police brutality, is facing charges of cyberbullying and 3 other related offenses. To discuss this, we are joined by a lawyer and a public affairs analyst, Justice Ojeno. Thank you so much, Mr. Ojeno, for joining us on the news.
Good afternoon. It's my pleasure to join you.
So looking at the latest developments, what do you make of this story?
Okay, it's difficult for me to delve into because it's now a matter before the court. But one thing I can tell you easily is that I'm not personally friends with the lady in question, but I was, as one of the lawyers to the protesters generally, I think I was also with her on that day because a number of them were arrested, including Mr. Sokoto, who happened to be their leader in Lagos State on the 20th of October. And of course, they summoned us through our network, and we rallied around and we went. But on that day, all of them were actually discharged. I also heard of what happened with this case, and I'm actually not fully in the know, especially with respect to the present counsel that's representing him. So I'm also a bit tired, but generally, I saw what happened on that particular day. They were not treated very, very well by the police, especially the manner of arrest and all. But we were the commissioner of police at the time and the public relations officer of the Nigerian Police Force in Lagos State Command, and they gave a lot of assurances on that particular day, especially with respect to persons who are molested, who are beaten, but they have not fulfilled what their assurances, what they gave us assurances on that day. They promised to actually unearth the particular police officers that actually committed infractions against the protesters or the people who went to observe the memorial on that day. Until this moment, we are yet to see any fulfillment of those promises.
Okay, you are a lawyer, so I'd like to get your legal perspective to this. The counsel representing the IGP said that he's just been intimated of the bail application for Olamide and he needed more time to respond to it. And I'm asking, how long does it take to respond to the bail application that he couldn't have done it? Aside the fact that that particular information was even given on December 20, that was even before now.
Okay, for me, I think that is very, very unfortunate. But again, in the famous case of IGP and Gopa, it is said that the defender has to be given sufficient time and facility in order to be able to prepare for his case. And sometimes the prosecution too, they enjoy such privileges. It is possible that sometimes the way the police will say, or their lawyers, the prosecution lawyers will say that the matter was, their office was intimidated, but the particular prosecutor in charge, the particular lawyer was not given the folder. Generally, in order to reply to motions, generally, we usually take 5 days to 7 days. So if they are already aware, or if the office is already aware from the 20th of December, I think that it is very, very wrong and very, very unfair for that to be an excuse that is being sought by the prosecution in this situation. But since what they are asking for is just 24 hours, I pray that I hope that the court has obliged them so that the hearing can actually take place tomorrow in order for the court to actually rule one way or the other. I'm not in a way, I can't preempt the court. I can't say that the court will grant a bail or the court will not grant a bail. But that the court will choose to rule one way or the other after weighing its own discretion whether to grant a bail, and if it's granting a bail, on what terms it will be seeking to grant a bail.
Oh, okay, so help us understand what actually constitutes cyberbullying or cyber stalking. Those were the accusations leveled against Olamide Thomas, and if she's actually culpable of those allegations.
It's very, very hard for me. I may not be able to go into whether she is culpable or not. That is.
It's just an education. It's just an education.
Okay, maybe by way of education. Generally, before now, what happens before the cyber stalking principal law and the various amendments that have followed it is the fact that a lot of people just go online. We have to remember that the internet is a new terrain, and part of the reasons why we have a standing legislature, not a part-time legislature, is for them to see challenges that emerge in society from time to time and quickly make laws to be able to deal with such challenges. And one of such challenges is people now use the social media or the internet world to actually commit a lot of wrongs, to take away people's privacy, to destroy people's characters and all. But one thing I've observed is that generally the police and law enforcement and the government generally, they now seem to be abusing these provisions of the law. Once a person just does something and the person puts it on the internet, they almost just harp on that and say that, oh, this person has committed cyber stalking, or he has committed this and that. So I feel that is what generally the government might be taking advantage of. But whether it is particularly so in this case, it is for the courts to decide, and it's not something that I will be free to do at this point in the case. Maybe after the judgment of the court, I can come into the credibility or otherwise of the way the matter went. But at this stage, I may not be able to do that.
Yes, I understand. Like I said, it's just a matter of education. Now, the Nigerian police have been accused of double standard. You would recall before the 2023 general election, some certain elements did use the social media to threaten some certain people that if they're not voting for their candidates, they should stay away. And the police PRO back then said that we should just take it as a pinch of salt, that it was just a joke. Is there a difference between that and what Thomas Olamide allegedly did?
I mean, I may not be able to compare both, but I think that on that one, the PRO of the Nigerian Police Force is extremely wrong. See, sometimes we have to remember that we cannot keep saying, just like Eric Blair, like I will fall back to, said that all animals are equal. That was the law. Then suddenly overnight, some animals went to change it to some are equal, but some are more equal than the others. And I think that generally can easily be the perception of the people if the law, Femi's model law, is not blindfolded. Is using one eye to see some people and giving them favorite treatment, while the others are being given an outsized hammer to deal with whatever it is they are alleged to have done. So I feel that ought to have been taken care of, and frontally too, in order to discourage anybody from inciting any form of ethnic violence against any other class of person. So I feel that that's a missed bus stop for law enforcement in order to be able to show how fair that they ought to have been. But it's very, very unfortunate the allegations against the Nigerian police force, especially the shenanigans that they have demonstrated in the past weeks and months in this country. I don't want to be touching on particular cases. It is very, very easy for the average, unbiased, objective Nigerian onlooker to be able to say that, no, the way they are applying it to this person is absolutely not fair. And they needed to have used that as a major example, but they missed that bus stop. And I know that if they are even presented with a similar opportunity, they will still treat some people with serious favoritism, and it is seriously to the detriment of the rule of law and any image that the public relations officer of the Nigerian police force may be trying to launder, as far as I'm concerned.
All right, Justice Ojando, lawyer and public affairs analyst, it was nice talking to you on the news. Thank you.
It's my pleasure.
You're watching News Central now. We're going on a very short break. When we return, AFDB to release $2.2 billion agro-industrial fund to Nigeria from 2025. The details will come your way in a short while. Once again. Many thanks for staying with us. We now tell you that the African Development Bank is set to start releasing a $2.2 billion fund for the development of special agro-industrial process zones in Nigeria. Director General of AFDB Nigeria Office, Abdul Kamara, made this known during a media chat. Specifically from next year, he said they will see contracts signed and mobilization and construction on site will start in some states. And he said, of course, not all these states will start together. He said the money would be used for the development of agro-industrial hubs where processing will happen, aggregation centers, and agricultural transformation programs will also follow. The developmental economist said, though the special agro-industrial process zones was approved by the FDB board in 2021, the project is picking up after startup delays attributed to several factors. And now to politics. Rivers State Governor Siminalayi Fubara has called on his supporters to remain calm amidst recent political rhetoric from certain quarters, assuring them that the time for active politicking is yet to come. He said when the time is right, the people of the state will know who is who. Governor Fubara was speaking at the 7th anniversary of the kingship installation of Eze Kasidi Ikebidi, a politician turned traditional ruler of the Akko people in Ahada East local government area. The governor attributed his survival from the political antics to divine providence and noted that his administration continues to grow stronger despite the expectations of detractors. He urged the people of Akko to embrace peace, emphasizing that development can only thrive in a harmonious environment.
Let's forget about the noise people are making. When the time is right, we will know who is who. So don't worry about anything. It is God that has led us from that day to today, and each day we get stronger and stronger. It is only God. We are not achieving this because of our strength or because we are boasting. It's because our strength is built in God. So we don't need to worry about what people are saying. Let the time come and we'll see how it will end. The most important thing is we must ensure that we live peacefully. Development can come to your kingdom. Development can come to a clear ethnic nationality without peace. There will be a lot of means to bring disunity amongst you. Try as much as you can to avoid it. You know the mechanism of our people, divide and rule. Try to avoid anything that will bring problem to this kingdom, so that we'll continue to show that we love you by ensuring that we bring.
Meanwhile, former governor of Rivers State, Dr. Peter Odili, has commended Governor Siminalayi Fubara for navigating through political challenges in the past 12 months and more since the crisis broke out in October 2023. Dr. Odili noted that Governor Fubara's struggles were not driven by personal interests, but were aimed at safeguarding the collective good of Rivers State, emphasizing that the fight is to ensure that the state cannot be reduced to anyone's personal property. Dr. Odili made these remarks during a special Christmas ballad he hosted by his family in honor of Governor Fubara's family at his residence in OGRA, Port Harcourt. Reflecting on Governor Fubara's leadership, Dr. Odili, who served as Rivers State Governor from 1999 to 2007, expressed optimism that God would bring to completion the positive changes underway in the state. Away from that, the Nigerian Communications Commission has dismissed claims of a telecommunications tariff hike allegedly set to take effect in January 2025. The Commission described the reports as false and unfounded, urging subscribers to disregard the misinformation. A senior NCC official speaking to newsmen on Sunday emphasized that the regulatory body operates under a transparent framework guided by the Nigerian Communications Act. According to the official, this framework requires stakeholder consultations and strict adherence to due process before any tariff adjustments are approved. NCC also appealed to journalists and industry stakeholders to verify information before publication, stressing the importance of accurate reporting to avoid unnecessary public panic. Reiterating its commitment to consumer interests and the stability of the telecommunications industry, the Commission assured Nigerians that updates on tariffs or related matters would always be communicated through official channels. Let's also tell you that the Nigerian Securities and Exchange Commission has introduced stricter rules for digital asset promotions to curb unregulated cryptocurrency advertising. Under revised guidelines, virtual asset service providers must secure SEC approval before hiring third-party marketers or influencers. The new rules, effective June 30, 2025, also require influencers or finfluencers to obtain a no-objection authorization from the SEC before promoting crypto products. Influencers must verify the licensing of promoted companies and disclose paid endorsements. Non-compliance could result in fines of at least 10 million naira or up to 3 years in prison. The SEC emphasized its commitment to monitoring crypto ads and penalizing violations to protect investors from unauthorized promotions. Now, to shed more light on this, we are joined by Silas Umekwe, author, Crypto Investors Playbook, and an online business consultant. Thank you so much for joining us on the news. Of course, it's nice to have you around, Silas.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
So how will these new regulations impact the adoption and growth of the cryptocurrency market in Nigeria?
Okay, so basically, the regulation is going to provide some form of sanity in the sense that before now we have seen top influencers and some of our big music influencers. We have seen them promote crypto tokens that a lot of people have gotten invested in, and they've lost a whole lot of money. I mean, there was one particular project that was promoted by one of the biggest names. The name of the project was Ichuk. And the truth of the matter is a lot of people, it was trending immediately after it just pumped, and a lot of people lost money, right? It actually choked a lot of people. So I think this regulation is very, very good. I think it's one that is going to help the populace. It's going to help investors, retail investors particularly. It's going to help us know, okay, if we are going to, if a public figure comes out to endorse a project, you're not just going to be taking advantage of your gullible followers, to just come and buy into that project. So I think it's a very good one. It's a very positive step in the right direction.
Well, some players in the industry say that it might stifle innovation, looking at what they called regulatory encumbrances. What do you think?
for stifling a, I'm not, of course, because of the whole requirement that is needed. We expect that it's going to bring about additional operational costs, and extra administrative responsibilities for VASPs, right? That's virtual asset service providers. It's going to bring in a lot of that. But the truth of the matter is we need some sanity in the space. We need some sanity in the space. If you're ready for the business, yes, come in and say, okay, yes, you're ready for it. And if you're not ready, just sit down and do some other thing. Because this industry is one that a lot of people are coming in. It's uncharted waters, basically. A lot of people are scared. A lot of people are skeptical. While a lot of people are just jumping in blindly, following who they think is their messiah, who they think is their influencer. We have a cult-like followership in Nigeria. Once you follow somebody, you just don't even want to point out something wrong that is doing. So for virtual asset service providers, I think we just have to tighten our belts. We just have to brace up. We just have to sit up and align with the practices that the SEC is providing. As a matter of fact, in 2017, in one of the stakeholders meetings, I think the first stakeholders meeting CBN had with crypto investors and crypto stakeholders, one of the things I suggested to the then CBN governor was that SEC should actually be in position of providing regulations for all of these things. So when I see SEC 7 years after coming up with these guidelines, I'm very, very happy, because this is one of the things we have suggested from time immemorial. So this is a step in the right direction. And of course, those that fail to comply are supposed to face the penalties. Every VASP should align with the practices of the regulations.
So now, how effectively can SEC enforce these new regulations, particularly given the decentralized nature of cryptocurrencies?
Okay, you see, there are decentralized exchanges and there are centralized exchanges. Now, for decentralized exchanges, we know that there is a little uphill, there's a learning curve for decentralized exchanges. Not just everybody can just come and start trading on a decentralized exchange. So you find out that the majority of traders are trading on centralized exchanges. As a matter of fact, if you go online, most people, just anybody that doesn't know anything about crypto already has maybe a Binance account, a Luno account, and the rest of them. So what the SEC is supposed to do, basically, just go after centralized exchanges. Go after them, and that's all. Once you go after centralized exchanges, now, the truth is there has to be regulations. There has to be regulations, because a lot of things are going wrong that just simple regulations can solve. But yes, there are decentralized exchanges and there are decentralized platforms where a lot of these transactions can happen. But it's just like saying that there should be no bank regulations because people can deal with cash. Right? Yes, there's going to be some form of cash transactions and all of that, but we still need bank regulations. So the same way, there's going to be some form of decentralized activities, but we still need regulations to control centralized exchanges and centralized activities. Okay. So I think it can be enforced. It can be enforced. They just need to come up with a blueprint and a roadmap. Right? Instead of creating policies or instead of driving centralized, in the past 1 year, we've driven out almost 4 or 5 centralized exchanges that are ready to do businesses with Nigeria. But instead of driving them away, you would have just called them, give them the requirement, and let them follow it. And that's all. Those centralized exchanges, foreign exchanges, they can afford some of all these things that we are talking about, especially the requirement that SEC is asking for. Some of these centralized exchanges can do it, just provided we can have law enforcers that will not just be going after money. Like the other day that a centralized exchange, part of the centralized exchange team was arrested, and after a few days, we just heard that somehow the guy was released. We didn't know anything about what happened. So of course, we can just like to put 1 or 2 together. Of course, we understand that a system cannot be wholesome in some climes, but then hopefully, in baby steps, we can get there. Thank you so much, Silas Umekwe, for sharing your thoughts with us. Thank you. Coming up on the news, police fire tear gas at a protest against abductions in Kenya. We'll tell you more when we're back. Stay with us.
news continues in East Africa, where the police fired tear gas on the streets of the Kenyan capital, Nairobi, as a protest against kidnappings. Rights groups, lawyers, and politicians have voiced grave concerns over a fresh spate of abductions targeting government critics. Security forces in the East African nation have been accused of carrying out dozens of illegal detentions since youth-led anti-government protests in June and July. Meanwhile, President William Ruto has promised an end to abductions following this latest spate of disappearances that have been condemned by rights groups, lawyers, and politicians. Ruto promised an end to the abductions, but also told parents to take responsibility for their children. Staying in the east of the continent, the death toll from a road accident in southern Ethiopia has risen to at least 71. In a Facebook post late on Sunday, the Sidama Police Commission Traffic Prevention and Control Directorate said that 68 males and 3 females are known to have died in the accident so far, citing Chief Inspector Daniel Sankura. The Police Commission said the incident occurred at around 5:30 p.m. local time when the vehicle plunged off a road and into a river. The post added that 2 others have sustained heavy physical injuries, but did not detail any further information about the number of passengers on board at the time of the incident. The accident occurred in Sokoto State, some 300 kilometers south of the capital, Addis Ababa, in the eastern zone in Borno Zuria Woreda. We now take you to Central Africa, where vote counting has begun in Chad following Sunday's general election, hailed by the government as key steps towards ending military rule, but marred by low turnouts and allegations of fraud. President Mahamat Idris Deby Itno, who has held power since his father's death in 2021, urged citizens to vote in what he described as a historic day. However, turnout was reported at just 52.37%, according to the Angie Election Agency. The opposition, which boycotted the election, has alleged widespread irregularities, including soldiers voting multiple times without identification. Opposition leader Success Masra claimed the boycott kept most voters at home. The government has framed the election as the final phase of a transition to democracy, but critics question its legitimacy, citing concerns over transparency and fairness. And I'll take you to a heartwarming story that will make tails wag and hearts melt. Imagine a place where your furry companions are treated like royalty at a hotel. And we're talking about a dog hotel that has redefined pet pampering in Cape Town, South Africa. This incredible dog hotel offers an oasis of comfort and joy for 4-legged friends, complete with luxury suites, play areas, and even gourmet meals are prepared by pet nutritionists. But it is not just a place for pups to stay. It is a sanctuary where dogs can roam, socialize, and feel at home when their owners are away. Now, our correspondent, Bongani Siziba, visited this hotel, and she has more to say in this report.
If you think the beach and the landscape are the only fascinating things in Cape Town, brace yourself. There is an adventure that even our furry friends can enjoy, a hidden gem that tails wagging good.
This is a nice place to kind of leave your dog, and if you're going away, you can still kind of live your life and just know that your dog is being taken care of by people that know what they're doing, with other friendly dogs.
Welcome to Pochco, where the pup pampering takes center stage. Just when you thought only humans could indulge in spa treatments in Cape Town, your 4-legged companion gets the royal treatment too.
Well, you know, for the dogs, if you're working all day, for them to be alone at home is boring. So we bring them here. They've got friends. They take them to the park. They take them up the mountains, and your dog has a lovely day while you work, and then you fetch them after work again.
From soothing massages to aromatic bath, this is a Canaan paradise. Their trained staff knows just how to spoil your porch, ensuring that experience is pure bliss.
I love it because it's convenient, and the guys are always so friendly and kind to Lucky, and they know him by name, and he always has a great time with all of his friends.
So, whether it's breathtaking beaches or luxurious pet retreats, Cape Town has so much to offer for you and your beloved pets. Curious about more hidden gems in this vibrant city, the extraordinary awaits around every corner. Why limit the fun to just humans? Here dogs socialize, explore, and play to their heart's content. It's not just a hotel, it's a vacation designed just for them. In Cape Town, for News Central, Bongani Sizeba.
Many thanks, Bongani, for that report. We now turn our focus to a developing story that is drawing attention on the global stage. South Africa finds itself on uneasy ground as concerns mount over the future of its favorable trade relationship with the United States. The tensions come as U.S. President Donald Trump is set to begin his tenure in January. Prominent voices within the Republican Party are urging the incoming Trump administration to reassess South Africa's participation in the African Growth and Opportunity Act called AGOA, particularly with the U.S. adopting a firmer stance towards nations like Russia, China, Iran, and Israel, which has sparked alarm bells in Pretoria. The AGOA trade relationship legislation has provided South African goods with duty-free access to American markets, significantly boosting the nation's economy and sustaining vital employment levels. As calls for reevaluation grow louder, we explore what this means for South Africa and its trade interests, as well as the potential ripple effects on the broader African economic landscape. And now joining us to unpack this is Professor Christopher Foki-Sike, Professor of African Politics and International Relations in the Department of Political Sciences, the University of Pretoria. Thank you so much, Professor Christopher, for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Now, what specific factors would you say are contributing to the growing concerns about South Africa's participation in AGOA?
Well, it's a whole bunch of things, like you said. It's South Africa's foreign policy, stance towards Russia initially, which has now been kind of corrected with a much more balanced view in terms of how South Africa views or engages with both belligerents, Russia and Ukraine, talking about Russia and Ukraine. And then South Africa's policy towards relationship with Hamas, which saw South Africa take Israel to the International Criminal Court of Justice, the ICJ. Which in many ways affects the United States, considering the relationship that Israel has with the United States. It's also fears around South Africa's participation in the BRICS, and it talks about the dollarization, of the U.S. dollar, and how that affects U.S. positioning in the global economy. So it's all these factors that are driving concerns in the U.S. And by the way, this is not new. There have been calls in the past for a reevaluation of South Africa's beneficiation from AGOA, and especially under the Biden administration, and they've been largely squashed. So we do not know what this would mean in a Trump administration that may not have the same kind of, sentimental attachment to South Africa that President Biden had.
Okay, so does that mean that when you look at the trade access that South Africa has enjoyed from the U.S., the possibility of some people not losing their employment status, and of course the overall economic benefits that South Africa could gain from this, by the time Donald Trump assumes office, the possibility of all those privileges could be lost? Is that what we're looking at now?
Yes, they could be lost. If we assume that Trump is going to remove South Africa from the list of beneficiary countries of AGOA, those privileges could be lost, and they will have very grim implications for South Africa's economy in many ways. But they also will come with pluses for the country. They will provide, for example, an opportunity for South Africa to diversify and actually look inwards, towards strengthening or looking at relations, new markets, access within Africa. For instance, expanding trade with countries like Nigeria that has very huge market potential. So the loss of AGOA, or the potential loss of AGOA, could mean South Africa pivoting more to the Africa Continental Free Trade Area agreement, which it can leverage, to expand trade within Africa. I mentioned Nigeria. Kenya is also another country that they can look at, including even Egypt. So there are opportunities there, and then even within SADC, the Southern African Development Community, there's already ongoing trade, but such, removing South Africa from AGOA could enhance trade within the SADC region and of course the South African Customs Union, which could help to mitigate, the export losses, by fostering regional trade and economic growth and stability within SADC.
Well, you know that if South Africa loses that AGOA status with the U.S., it would affect local businesses, most especially those who actually thrive on exporting their produce or goods, most especially to the U.S. So I'd like to find out if you think diversifying and looking at the local markets in terms of volume and value, they will be able to match up to what the U.S. has been able to do for South Africa in these regards.
Yeah, especially, if you look at the agricultural sector in South Africa, its exports, significant volumes of agricultural products, such as citrus, wine, and avocados to the US, right? And so if it loses this, it will need to be able to expand, access to markets in some of the countries that I mentioned, using the instrumentality of the AFTA. And then also even in the automotive sector, South Africa's automotive exports to the US, especially looking at vehicles and components, these are things that South Africa has been exporting to the US, and a reevaluation or removal of South Africa from AGOA could reduce export volumes due to increased costs, in US market, and also disrupt supply chains with ripple effects on manufacturing jobs and upstream economy. So if this happens, then the South Africa needs to be able to put policies in place and infrastructure in place, support countries within the continent to beneficiate from this infrastructure development that it should lead and enhance, or just improve its value proposition, to encourage trade between it and other countries. But the market is there really in Africa, and you shouldn't be too worried if South Africa looks more inward to the continent than the traditional looking approach or pivoting towards the US, which of course is beneficial, but there are other opportunities, other markets that it can leverage.
Okay. All right. Professor Christopher Isike, thank you so much for sharing your thoughts with us. Sports now. Nigeria's Super Eagles B are bracing for a challenging campaign at the African Nations Championship called CHAN 2024 after failing to secure a spot among the seeded teams for the tournament draw. The draw, set for December 31 at CAF headquarters in Cairo, Egypt, will seed teams based on performances in the last three editions, 2018, 2020, and 2022. Nigeria missed the last two tournaments but earned their place at CHAN 2024 with a 3-1 aggregate victory over Ghana. Hosts Kenya, Tanzania, Uganda, and defending champions Senegal are seated in Pot 1. CHAN, featuring players from domestic leagues only, will run from February 1 to 28, 2025 across the three host nations. The Super Eagles now await their fate in what promises to be a fiercely competitive tournament. Let's also tell you that Cartier Voltaire and Charles Broom helped Great Britain beat Argentina in the Group F opener of the United Cup. Great Britain led 1-0 after Voltaire beat Nadia Podoroska 6-2, 6-3, but Argentina hit back when Thomas Martin Echeverri overcame a stomach issue to see off Billy Harris 366362. British #1 Bolter and Broom 26 came through their mixed doubles rubber against Maria Lourdes and Carl and Echeverry 7-6, 7-4, 7-5. Great Britain meets Australia in their next Group F encounter on January 1. Victory would put them into the quarterfinals in Perth, Australia. The United Cup began in 2023 with the USA winning the inaugural edition and Germany taking the title in 2024. And that's all at this hour, but before we go, look at our top stories again. NNPCL announces 125,000 barrels per day Warri Refinery has commenced production. In Thomas Olamide's story, delay as prosecuting counsel requests more time to prepare for arguments. We also told you that Ethiopia's road accident death toll rises to 71, others injured. You can watch News Central live on DSTV channel 422, Star Times channel 274, Evo TV, and YouTube. Many thanks for watching. I am Lekon Onabanjo.